Hi superstars, it's Mrs. Logan. We're going to continue learning about the solar system today. And we're going to focus in on one of the planets. Take a look at my clues. Hello my superstars. Today I am coming to you from a location that we actually explored in one of our old labs. Do you recognize this place behind me? It's the volcano in Carlsbad, the Calavera Hills volcano. It is at the exact same location along this trail that leads all the way down to Sage Creek High School that we had a student from Sage Creek create an Eagle Scout project. An Eagle Scout project is an opportunity for a Boy Scout to demonstrate a way of leadership skills and performing a service that will have a lasting benefit for people in the community. And Colton Dister from Carlsbad, he made this relative distance sun to the planets model for us to be able to see how big our solar system is. Very similar to what we did with our planets last week and our toilet paper squares to see how far apart the planets were from each other as well as to the sun. So here we have the sun is the very first plaque there, and on the plaque it gives some really cool facts about the sun, and then a few steps farther we learn about Mercury. At each plaque we can learn some new facts about each of the planets, and on Mercury's plaque we can see that Mercury is 29 million miles away from the sun, and it is the fastest planet traveling through space. Now, let's look at Venus. Venus is about the same size as Earth. One interesting fact about Venus is that it spins slowly in the opposite direction of most planets. Next, we have our home, Earth. We know lots of amazing things about Earth. As we read on this plaque, all the essentials we need to survive exist under a thin layer of atmosphere that separates us from the cold, airless void of space. Here we have arrived at Mars, the planet we're going to be focusing on today. We've now traveled 141 million miles away from the sun. Mars is like a cold desert world. Half of the diameter of Earth, Mars has seasons. It has polar ice caps, volcanoes, canyons, and weather. But the atmosphere is so thin that liquid water, which may have existed long ago, they don't believe it's there anymore. NASA scientists and SpaceX are working hard for people to get to the planet Mars soon, actually in the next 5 years. All right, here's our next planet. We have Jupiter. Jupiter was quite a walk down, and it's a massive planet in our solar system. Jupiter has 69 moons recorded to date and an enormous magnetic field. We've got a little ways to go to get to Saturn. 456 million miles, actually. Here we go. We have a long walk down our trail to get to the sixth planet away from the sun, Saturn. This planet is a gas giant, just like Jupiter, and it is 886 million miles away from the sun, and it has thousands of beautiful ringlets. It's very unique among the planets. This gas giant, the rings are made up of ice and rock, And the actual planet is made up of hydrogen and helium, so you can't stand on it. If you keep traveling down this service road, you will come upon Uranus and Neptune. What a really cool way to demonstrate the distance between the planets and teach us all a little bit more about our solar system. Thank you, Colton. In 1969, NASA sent its first astronauts to the moon. And they had a pretty amazing trip, and they collected a bunch of samples to help us learn more about our solar system. It wasn't always a smooth trip. There were a lot of bumps along the way. I'm sure it's much more difficult than it looks to walk on the moon with zero gravity. So astronauts are now preparing for another expedition, and this one is to the planet Mars. Check out what it takes in the planning to go there.
In the year 2024, SpaceX aims to send the first humans to Mars, 55 years after man first set foot on the moon. While the Apollo missions only involved short stays on the moon, SpaceX aims to make Mars a permanent home for humans. For the first group of astronauts heading to Mars, the journey is expected to take around 5 months. But what will they do when they get there? In this video, we're going to look at what needs to be achieved before we can send humans to Mars. We are also going to look at the initial structures and systems that astronauts will set up in order to begin colonizing Mars. Before the first astronauts ever set foot on the surface of Mars, they will need to have the essentials, like water and power, already set up before they get there. SpaceX plans to achieve this in 2022 by sending 2 BFRs on uncrewed missions, carrying important equipment such as a large array of solar panels and a mining system. This mining system will be the basis of SpaceX's automated propellant plant, which they aim to expand with every new mission that heads to Mars. This propellant plant will process the large supplies of CO2 and water found on Mars by using the Sabatier process to make oxygen and methane, which will then be liquefied and used as fuel to return the astronauts back to Earth. If this mission is successful in setting up the foundations for a Mars colony, SpaceX will be on course for sending the first humans to Mars in 2024. This mission will consist of 2 cargo ships and 2 crewed ships, carrying around 6 to 8 astronauts each. The astronauts could be staying on Mars anywhere between a few months or a couple of years while they continue to set up the propellant plant. One of the most important things the astronauts will have to do when they arrive is set up a base. It's unclear what the first Martian base will look like, although many have suggested that it should have a similar design to the International Space Station, with compact pressurized modules allowing room for expansion. Others have suggested that the initial base on Mars should be built underground to protect the astronauts from the intense radiation and extreme weather experienced on Mars. It's possible that Elon Musk's Boring Company could be used to dig tunnels and create underground habitats for astronauts to live on Mars. Then there is the question of how astronauts will get their food. The first astronauts on Mars will take a 2-year supply of vacuum-sealed packets of food, which are light and compact, just like the ones used on the ISS. The astronauts won't be relying on Mars-grown food. However, it's likely that they will bring a greenhouse on their first mission to experiment with growing food and possibly supplementing their food with freshly grown produce. In order to navigate the surface of Mars, the astronauts will also need a vehicle that can deal with the roughest of terrains. NASA have been developing the Space Exploration Vehicle for this exact purpose. This is a pressurized vehicle which can support up to 4 astronauts for 72 hours. With multiple SEVs on the surface of Mars, it would allow astronauts to travel more than 125 miles in any direction, a major leap forward from the maximum 6-mile range that the lunar rover had on the moon. So as we get closer to seeing the first humans set foot on Mars, we can appreciate the enormous engineering challenges that need to be overcome before they get there.
So your first challenge this week is to try to get out to Calavera Hills and check out the Solar System Walk. For your second challenge, I want you to design either a rover or a space camp on Mars. Here are some things to keep in mind as you're designing your creation. As you're designing these creations, keep these things in mind.
So, you're thinking of moving to Mars. Have you picked out a spot for your new home? No? Well, I'm here to help. First things first, here are some of the things you'll need to bring to the red planet. A high tolerance for cold, loneliness, and radiation. A lifetime supply of breathable air and food. A multi-billion-dollar spaceship. A desire to just get away from it all. And water. You're definitely going to need water. So what sort of real estate are you looking for? How about a mansion in the maze-like Noctis Labyrinthus? A hideaway in the Happy Face Crater? A fortress on the Face Mesa? An ocean view? Bad news on the last one. You're about 4 billion years late. We're pretty sure that Mars used to have oceans, lakes, rivers, the whole package. But over time, almost all of it froze beneath the surface or evaporated off into space. There's probably still some trapped beneath the seasonally expanding and contracting carbon dioxide ice caps, though. So what might Mars look like today if it had surface water? That, of course, depends on how much we're talking about, but maybe something like this. The relatively flat northern hemisphere is below the average elevation, so it would become one giant ocean, while the crater-ridden southern hemisphere would stay mostly high and dry. That difference between hemispheres is a bit bizarre, and we don't know why it's like that. The southern half is probably much older, judging by features like the number of craters and the evidence of increased volcanic activity in the north. Okay, so who knows? Maybe one day Mars will have oceans again. But for now, what we've got is essentially one giant, dusty desert. In fact, it's similar enough to deserts on Earth that we've been able to learn a great deal about Mars on our home planet. For instance, Martian sand dunes form and behave similarly to our sand dunes, though the Martian versions often grow twice as large thanks to a gravitational pull that's about a third as strong as ours. And Mars has some features you won't see on Earth, like tars, which are crestless sand dunes up to 15 meters tall, whose formations we have yet to understand. You're probably wondering, what do you get when you combine a planet-wide desert with an atmosphere that, like ours, is subject to wind-generating pressure differentials, dust storms? These will be your main weather hazards on the red planet. They play a large part in making the planet red by distributing rusted iron particles across the surface and into the air. Thanks to the low gravity and lack of moisture, these dust storms can last for months and cover the planet. So, you might want to build your home as high as possible. Well, look no further. This is Olympus Mons, the largest volcano in the solar system. Even if Mars had a breathable atmosphere, you'd find the views from the 25-kilometer summit breathtaking. Or are volcanoes not your thing? Then how about Valles Marineris, the largest canyon in the solar system? It's so wide that from one side, the opposite rim would be below the curve of the horizon. Still, you'll catch some spectacular blue sunsets in the normally red sky, which gets its color from the dust absorbing most of the blue light and the way sunlight is scattered by the atmosphere. Have you got spirit, curiosity, or are you just looking for opportunity? Then stop stalling and make the move to Mars today. Mars, redder than ever.
After after that description, I'm not so sure I'm ready to sign up to go to Mars, but have fun building your space camp or your rover anyway. For your third challenge today, I'd like you to design and build a diorama of all the planets and the sun in our solar system. I look forward to seeing any and all of your challenges on this Flipgrid link. Have a great week, superstars.